Hey friends, Lamar Toulouse, pastor of Success Life Church, and I want to welcome you to tonight's special presentation where I'll be talking about the beginning of a new legacy and sharing my heart as we begin this journey to spread the gospel of the kingdom around the world. I want to use for a passage Isaiah the 43rd chapter, verse 18 and 19 in this presentation. Let's look at verse 18. It says, "Do not remember the former things, nor consider the things of old. Behold, I will do a new thing. Now it shall spring forth. Shall you not know it? I will even make a road in the wilderness and rivers in the desert." As I reflected on this passage, what popped out to me in the beginning of it was, do not remember the former things, nor consider the things of old. Behold, I will do a new thing. And thinking of the children of Israel coming out of Egypt and going into the promised land, they went through the patch of the wilderness before coming to the promised land. And God wanted to do a new thing in their life, bringing them out of bondage and bringing them into the freedom of the promised land. But what he didn't want them to do was get stuck remembering the past and where they've been through and where they come from, and not focus on the promised land where he was bringing them to. Or consider. When you look at that word consider, you're pondering on it. You're considering it. I remember in Romans when Abraham was, the writer was talking about Abraham, and he said, Abraham considered not his body yet dead, but he was strong in faith. He didn't consider the thing that was before him, but he hold to the promise that God made for him. So in this passage, I don't believe it's wanting us to forget about the past or just wipe out the past, but to reflect from the standpoint of that's what got you to this place, but I'm bringing you to a future. I'm bringing you to an expected end. So in this presentation, I want to reflect on the past that got me here to the place that I am today. Because without what I've been through and without the guidance that I had to get to this point, I wouldn't be here today before you presenting a new legacy and starting a new journey to what God has brought us to. So in acknowledging the past, I want to honor a few benchmarks. I want to honor a few pastors in my life that helped me to get to this place that I am. There's a lot of people that poured into my life. There's a lot of people that sowed into my life. And I just want to give honor where honor is due to the pastors that I have been under, who have brought me to this place in their wisdom and their knowledge and their understanding and their love and their compassion as pastors, as I reflect on the beginning of a new journey. First, I would like to honor Pastor John Smith of Mount Canaan Missionary Baptist Church of Arcola. Why is this near and dear to me? Because Pastor Smith was the person that invited me to church the first time when I got saved. I remember meeting him. We was at some relative's house, and we were having a gathering, and he came over because he was next door neighbor to them. And I remember it like yesterday. I had a 22-ounce bottle in my hand of Budweiser, my drink of that time, and, you know, being myself, enjoying it. And he said, man, you ought to come to church. And from that introduction, I end up turning my life completely around. And when I entered into Mount Canaan during that time, I gave my life to the Lord. And there I got saved under Pastor Smith. And there I was baptized. And my journey began as a saint and a citizen of the kingdom of heaven. Come on, you know, often you went through. When was that time that you can put on the calendar? You can go to the specific date where God pulled you out of that darkness, where he pulled you out and placed your feet upon the rock. You can go to that particular day and remember it, because your life was never the same. And I just want to honor that place right now and honor that person, Pastor Smith, who brought me before the Lord, prayed that prayer, was baptized, and then from that entered into with a zeal, with a hunger for the word, to begin preaching the word of God. I mean, I remember it where I first started where I cut my teeth in preaching. Nervous as I don't know what, getting in front of the podium. Always crying before I started because I was just so nervous in getting up there. And I can see him just signaling over to come and share a word with us and get in front of the podium and just say a few words. Wasn't really much, but just allowing me to get my feet wet. Pastor Smith, I thank you for it and I appreciate it. And how you took our family in throughout that time, and as we grew through the years as a family, you know, I thank you for those 5 years or so of molding me and my family as a young minister. I'm ever grateful, and I just want to honor you and acknowledge you in this presentation. Secondly, I would like to honor Pastor Duke Chance of New Life Covenant Church of Amy. Pastor Duke, oh man, I could just go to the first time that we first met from an introduction from my mom. You met my mom in J.C. Penney's, I believe it was, and she said, you know what, you need to talk to my son. I was in a place of transitioning at that time, and when we met, I remember it, as most could probably relate to this, riding in the van, I think it was, the church van at the time, and just talking and just sharing our heart and just sharing, you know, what we wanted to do in ministry, where I was as a young minister there, and full of vision and full of passion, and just ready to take the world by storm. And I remember kind of just getting a game plan together, and at that time we wanted to plant a church in Hammond, and get started there. And I believe we may have said, like, let's give it 3 years and let's, you know, just go through the process and see how this thing go. And that's where our journey began. And I just from there remember the connection, remember, you know, the faith, healing, and prosperity message, and connecting to that vision, and connecting to that faith word and the healing that was taking place. And a lot of times where people bucked against the prosperity and walking in the blessing of God and seeing it at a higher level of spiritual fullness and walking in that. And I honor New Life for that, and I honor you, Pastor Duke, for that in this presentation, just to let you know that those words, that vision that has catapulted forward, shall continue in what God has called us to do and launching forward in this journey. I mean, I could just remember the Fresh Fire conferences, the preaching at Angola, funerals, the word explosion meetings, on and on I can go of the opportunities that you've allowed me to mature as a young man, and starting even as you begin to call me pastor and say Pastor Lamar, and as the people begin to say pastor, and acknowledging that way the growth, the maturity from minister under Pastor John Smith, now becoming pastor under you, Pastor Duke. And as we go forward now in this journey and pastoring the church, taking those things that I have learned throughout the journey, and the best lesson that I can say of learning under your leadership is family, your immediate family. And I have 4 kids and a lovely wife, and as we begin this journey, knowing the pressures of ministry, knowing the time that's needed to put in, and then also having your family that you have to pour in as well, understanding that family is first in God's eyes and should be first in our ministry. Not to neglect our families as we begin to lead the things forward that God called us into. And I honor you for that, for giving me an example of how to operate from a passion of love, even for those that you have led as like family, and gave your heart and gave your soul to those, you know. And a lot of times we would say, you know, it's because of your heart sometimes that you go over and above, even when people may not deserve it, or even when you get the short end of the stick, so to speak, but still being a man after God's heart. And I acknowledge that and honor that in you. And I want to thank you for almost 9 years of molding me into a young pastor. And my family is ever grateful. And we honor you and acknowledge you in this presentation. And lastly, I want to honor our legacy. My grandfather, Reverend Joseph Taylor of Macedonia Baptist Church in Port Salford, Louisiana. I mean, where can I start? I know a lot of those that may be watching and knew him and known him even from the community in Bootville, Louisiana, and in Port Salford, in all of Clackamas Parish. That lives that he touched, and people that he poured into. And as a grandson was raised by him, I can remember from probably 5 years old up until his death, just him being a part of my life and all of the things that we learned from him. I know those watching probably would affectionately know him as Uncle Joe, and all of the nicknames that he gave us as kids and gave those in the community, and the different things that he implemented, and the respect that he had in the community, and the respect that he had and from the clergy, and through his walk and through his ministry. Remember at their church, he started a drill team, and I was in the drill team with those that founded it, and just him allowing us to do that and go to different places and compete in the competitions that they had during that time. And just to reflect on that and see the love that he had for children and the love that he had for ministry. And now being raised by him, and a lot that know him know that it was tough love. Ain't no beating around the bush with Reverend Taylor. He was a straight shooter, and definitely a man of God. And I just, through the time of my childhood up until now, all the things that he instilled in me, the wisdom, your word being bond, you know, doing what you say you're going to do, and being the man of integrity and being the man of your word. And I thank him for that. And even when I began my ministry and starting out being licensed and now beginning to preach, I remember going to preach for him in the little shack after Katrina hit, wiped out everything in Clackamas Parish. And then as those that were coming back came back, you know, they had to put a building up before they were building their church. And I remember it. It was just a little shed type building, probably had 15 people in there, if that. 20 maybe, I'm not sure how many, wasn't really counting, but I know he gave me the opportunity to come down and preach for him. And it was such a privilege to preach in front of my grandfather. Hopefully made him proud in my preaching, and made God proud in bringing the word. But I know it may have been a shack and not many people there, but I believe I preached like they had 5,000 people there, because I was so excited to be able to preach in front of him. Even when I was licensed at Mount Canaan, he was there for the licensing, and, you know, almost pushed the pulpit over and fell over it, because that's how he just was in his preaching. So I know a little bit where I get it from, of not being able to keep still and everywhere in my preaching, and just the things that sometimes come out of my my mind when I'm preaching, a lot of that comes from that legacy. And as I hold in my hand here the celebration of life when he passed, and I remember doing my part in the services, and you know, he passed January the 10th of 2011, and now here we are in 2021. 10 years have gone by, and now we're beginning a journey off of that legacy. And I remember the night, the day when we at the funeral. We call it Celebration of Life. Many of you may know it as the funeral, but whatever. And I remember being up there, and the message that God gave me, as nervous as I was, says, "My servant Moses is dead. Now arise, Joshua, and take these people into the promised land." And as we started in the beginning in Isaiah, where he says, "I'm going to do a new thing," I reflected back on that time when God spoke to Joshua to rise up and lead the people that he has entrusted to him over this Jordan. And when I just thought of that, of passing the torch or passing the baton, as we've often quoted and preached, and now as we begin this journey of a new legacy, not a new legacy and starting over, but a new legacy from the old legacy, from the Reverend Joseph Taylor, as he from a young age and on impacted the community, all the things that I've described of him, and not to walk in his shoes, but just to pick up from what he's instilled into me, and now begin the journey that God has given me to take part in preaching the gospel around the world. So I honor Reverend Taylor today and thank him for the man that he made me, for the minister that he made me, for the pastor that he made me, as a grandson, the wisdom that he gave, the things that we learned in how to build as we were strippers and cattlemen, and doing all of the things that the trades that he had, that he taught us, and the work ethic, you know, to work and put forth the effort and go above and beyond to get things done. I thank him, I appreciate him, and I thank my family, and I thank the family as you entrust me in the legacy that he has left behind, and as we further it to continue to spread the gospel. I'm so grateful for my grandfather. I'm so grateful for the man of God that he was an example of to us, and I'm grateful just to walk alongside a path that he took and being a preacher of the gospel. I honor him and I thank him for helping get me to this part. And as we close this presentation, I just want to say a thank you to all of my family and friends for the continued support. I want to thank those that have sold into my life over the years. I want to thank you. And to all those who have spoken to my life, I thank you for the words of encouragement. I thank you for the prophecies. I thank you for the things that I couldn't see in myself that you saw in me. I am grateful. And to all who have impacted or have been impacted by the gift that God has given me to minister, to preach, and to teach, I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to allow God to use us to do the work that he's called us to do. You know, our aim and what the scripture passage says, to perfect the saints for the work of the ministry. Not for us to be built up, but for us to build you up for the work of ministry. I'm grateful in the gift that God has called me to pastor and to teach, and just whatever of the gifts of the Spirit is given to me to begin this journey. I pray that you continue to pray for us, that you continue to pray me, that God would continue to keep me strengthened, to keep me fighting the good fight of faith until my course is ended. I am grateful to all those connected. I'm grateful to all those who have planted seed in good soil from day one, and I am appreciative. And on behalf of the Toulouse family, I want to say thank you. And as we start the new legacy and planning a church in the Hammond area, I am excited for this time that we're embarking on. I'm excited for the challenges. I'm excited for the journey. I'm excited to see what God is calling us to do. He said, I will do a new thing. And I'm ready to see what he has in store for us. So as you see here on the screen, the announcement, until we find a permanent building, we will be holding services at the Holiday Inn in Hammond, Louisiana. The address is 1819 Southwest Railroad Avenue, and we will be in the St. Charles Conference Room in the Holiday Inn. And on Wednesdays, we will be online via YouTube and soon Facebook and our Success Life Now Facebook online campus. Wednesdays at 7 p.m. our midweek message, what we have been continually doing. We're going to be transitioning into some things on our Wednesday night, so look out for that. And we're going to be continually getting the word out. You can follow us on YouTube at Lamar Toulouse. You can follow us on Facebook at Success Life Now Ministries. And also, if you want to get all the information as we're building the website, but the things that we're continually doing in the ministry, you can go to slnministries.com. www.slnministries.com will give you all the things Success Life Now is doing as we begin this journey. And our ministry is partner supported. If you would like to learn how to become an ongoing ministry partner, you'll see some information on the screen for that as well, and help us to advance the gospel of the kingdom and impact communities in this surrounding area. Or you can go to our website also at slnministries.com. At the top, you're going to see the partner button. Click on it and you can get more information on how to partner with us and get plugged in. We are just getting started, so there's a lot to do and there's a lot more to come. Be patient as we begin to get all of this stuff built out and get it prepared for the growth and the things as we continue this journey. Once again, thanks for all the support, and especially to our Foundation 500 partners. I give you a round of applause, because without you, we wouldn't be at the place that we're at right now and getting launched and getting all the sound equipment and the video things that we need and being able to have the funds necessary for the Holiday Inn. Is from your faithful support. Welcome to the 500. Oh, special place in my heart that you have, because I know the vision that God has given me, I can't do it alone. So thank you. Thank everyone that have watched this special presentation. I honor those pastors that we presented in this for being my launching pad and getting me to where I am today. I honor my grandfather as an heir of him and instilling in me the qualities that I have. And I thank God as he called me to do this work, to triumph, because I know my sufficiency is only in him. I thank you for joining us in this presentation. God bless you.